Welcome in, everybody, to a Wednesday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, Johnny Mac, John McMullen. Give us follows on X at Zander Krause and at JF McMullen. We got a great show planned for you, Johnny Mac, as we move into day number 2 of July. How you doing on this Wednesday morning, Johnny Mac?
Doing well. Yeah, just watching all the TJ Watt aggregation explode.
Oh man, what happened with that? I saw that when I wasn't on Twitter much yesterday. I had a lot of errands going on yesterday, but what update me on that?
Some Pittsburgh radio host talked to a Philadelphia radio host and speculated on a trade.
I think I saw this. Nolan Smith in a late round pick.
Yeah. So there you have it. That's about the assumption of it. And then it turns into something. What a world we live in, by the way.
It is funny. It is funny, the world we live in.
No institutional knowledge, talking to no institutional knowledge, and bang, everybody's got it.
Zero inside, just straight aggregation. But John, that's how it works. What do you think of that deal? The Nolan Smith and a late round pick for TJ Watt. Is that realistically as laughable as it sounds? I think it is, right?
At this moment, yeah. I mean, yeah, if you don't believe in you just sat through an entire offseason of Howie Roseman explaining to you what they're doing. And then on July, whatever, he's going to blow it all up and pay $40 million. Because remember, the reason TJ Watt's under contract in Pittsburgh, the reason he's having an issue because he wants to renegotiate his deal as a 5-time All-Pro, whatever he is, with a great player. I'm not demeaning the player at all. Would be a great pickup, but he wants $40 million a year.
Yeah, right.
So I always tell people before they start these nonsense trade discussions, forget about the player, forget about the value of the player. Look at the contract first. Look at the contract demands first. Then get to the other stuff. And Howie's already on record as saying, yeah, we love, with Myles Garrett, who's a player, ironically, maybe the only pass rusher in the world the Eagles liked more than TJ Watt. And he actually, if you go way back at the start of the aggregation cycle, he actually requested a trade, seemed to have some interest in playing in Philadelphia. Why wouldn't you? Going for a Super Bowl type situation. And Howie said, basically would not mention names, but he was talking about Myles. Said, we'd love to have the player, but we're not in a position to do that at this particular time. What do you think has changed other than, bunch of blowhards blowing something up?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I could see that would be it is that sometimes a deal in life comes by you and you don't expect to make it, you don't plan to make it, but the deal is so good you make it. Now, I don't think that's happening here. I'm just saying that's the only
hope
I could see on this.
They would have done it with Myles if they were going to do it. But in defense of that, Cleveland was steadfast in saying they weren't going to trade Myles. Ultimately, obviously, they didn't and worked it out. But remember the Eagles' relationship with Cleveland and Andrew Berry and Catherine Hickman and yada, yada, yada. They have a close relationship. If anything was going to get done, it'd be there. He's, again, 12 free agents. Not one of them got more than 1 year. He's not lying. He's trying to reset the financial situation for what's upcoming, which has already started with Cam Jurgens and will continue. But the big names are Jalen Carter, ironically, Nolan Smith, and then even further down the line, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. Those are the big ones. You throw Reed Blankenship in there as well. Not as big, but those are the big ones they're trying to and particularly Jalen Carter, obviously, because you're talking I don't think he's going to get to 40 considering where the defensive tackle market is, but I do think he's going to get to 35.
Yeah, me too.
So you're going to pay an edge rusher 40.
Yeah, no.
And you're going to pay a defensive tackle 35. And, also remember you have Nolan Smith under team control for through when they pick up his option, it'll be through 2027.
Nolan's going into what, year 3 now, right? So he's 3, 4, and then he's got the 5th-year option. So he's still got 3 more seasons left.
So 2027.
Yeah.
Which he can manipulate, and they'll try to work out an extension before that. But as they always do, they'll roll in that 5th year. Typically, if they don't get the extension done before the picking up the 5th year option, which they probably won't. So, yeah. But have fun, have fun with the aggregation. Have fun.
Doesn't sound likely there, but John, it does connect to one of the things that we've been doing here on the show, and I want to shift off that a little bit and get to, because we got Mike Gill coming up in about 12 minutes, so we've been following along on the top 25 list on Sports Illustrated with Johnny Mack and Ed Kratz. We're down to number 14 today, and the original conversation that we just had here on Birds 365 does connect to this player, Johnny Mack, number 14 overall on the top 25 list. The floor is yours. Who do you and Ed have at 14?
Nolan Smith. Yeah, works out perfectly.
There it is.
Yeah, works out perfectly. Did, coincidence sometimes, but and if things continue to go the way they did down the stretch last year, he'll be much higher on the list next year or at the end of the season. So, yeah, I mean, the Eagles are very high on the player, rightfully so. Rarely do you see a turnaround. Man, there was you compare the belief in Nolan Smith from the start of the season, early in the season, to where it is now, where, hey, I think he's a really good player, but even I got to pump the great brakes on some of these expectations people are placing on him. And that's one of my concerns of the Eagles this season is the edge rushing situation. But very good player, very unique player, 237 pounds, yet very physical, holds up well in run support, which is very rare. He's very similar. They're not similar from a trait standpoint physically, but very similar player to Brandon Graham in that he can do both. He's a 3-down player. He's an energy guy like Brandon. Really important part of this team. I would say one of the most important parts of this team in this season, because he's got to be the centerpiece of the pass rush. Nobody else has taken that role. He's got to be the centerpiece. And he tore his triceps in the Super Bowl. Not necessarily concerned about that from the standpoint he'll be ready for week 1, but I'm a little bit concerned from the standpoint of still a 237-pound guy pushing and pulling against 300-plus pound offensive tackles all the time. That concerns me a little bit, but yeah. I've talked about the size. It hasn't affected the Eagles for the most part.
What do you think his peak weight could be, like playing weight? 250?
Yeah, I think you're at it, man. I say it all the time. He's in great shape, but he doesn't have the frame where it can add a ton of weight.
Yeah, right. Like Jalen, you look at and you're like, yeah, that guy still can add 15 pounds.
Yeah, exactly. Jalen has the frame to continue to add weight. Nolan's short for an edge rusher too. 6'2"-ish. So, he doesn't have that big rangy frame that can add weight. So I think, maybe get up to 245, but he's always going to be undersized. But that's part of, you give and you take. He also, how many edge rushers, run a sub 4.4?
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Not that, I'm not a big proponent of 40 times for edge rushers because they're not running 40 yards, but it's nice to have it's nice to have that ability to chase people down. And I think people are you've seen a number of quarterbacks, they understand they're dealing with a lot of athletic edge rushers, but Nolan kind of amps it up, and you're a little bit surprised by how quickly he gets on you. So he's got to keep it going. I think
Johnny's the new de facto #1 edge rusher on this football team, and he did set the bar pretty high late in the year. Now, we've talked about him a lot this year, but I mean, what do you have? 4.5 sacks in the playoffs, right? 6.5 sacks through the late year run when you add it all up together. Now he's got to do it for a full year. It's a much bigger role for him, John. Much bigger role.
Yeah, I mean, really, he really amped up when Brandon got hurt, which was November 24th in Los Angeles, and that's when
what week was that? Week 10 or week somewhere in there?
Well, from that point forward, he had, I think, 7 sacks in 10 games. So, and that includes 4 in the postseason. So, you know, he's got to do that for an entire year. And I think that surprised everyone how effective he played. And he probably would have done more in the Super Bowl if he didn't tear his tricep. Not probably, would have. You know, he played through that, and he couldn't use his left arm. So, tough guy too. He wanted to get back out there. I remember talking at the end of minicamp. He's like, he's ready to strike. And I'm like, well, the Eagles aren't going to let him do anything for one day. I didn't think. And that's the way it worked out. They didn't, but he wanted to. And Nick kind of smiled when I asked him, because I was the one who asked him that question. It's like, you know, Nolan said he's ready to strike. How do you guys handle that? And he just smiled and said he's always ready to strike. So Eagles love the player. So 2 things, I guess we'll start out, you know, there's not going to be a trade of Nolan Smith for TJ Watt, and Nolan's got to have a big year.
Yeah, well, no, he does have to have a big year. I will say that back when the Myles Garrett conversation came up, you kind of joked with me. I'm like, I don't know if I want to give up a young player, and you're like, dude.
I know
that leaves out the contract. I'm not saying I know what you're speaking. You're more speaking about the contract, and it's really not an option. But I'm just saying, from that perspective, if you took the contract out of it for a second, you would do the deal, wouldn't you?
Oh God, yeah. From a football perspective, if money didn't matter, if it, you know, which it does, yeah, they're not close. Yeah, for the same thing I'll say with.
Yeah, right.
Same thing I said with Myles. I mean, people twisting themselves into a pretzel saying, well, maybe no. Yeah, TJ Watt's a first ballot Hall of Famer. You know, I don't know. I have to look up how many All Pros he already has. You know, very, very proven player. And consistent, durable, everything you need as an edge rusher. 6-time All-Pro. 6-time All-Pro, either first or second team. 3-time sack leader. 2-time forced fumbles leader. I mean, yeah, this guy's special. I'm not comparing them as players. I'll leave that for you guys. They're not close.
I'm just telling you about the business of it. Doesn't look like it'll make it happen. Well, John, what do you expect on Nolan then coming into this year? I mean, we just talked about the expectation is huge on him, but if I almost feel like if he doesn't have a good year, I mean, we're going to have issues on that defensive front because, you know, there's no one else really to hold down the edge rushing room.
Yeah, I if he doesn't have a big year, the Eagles are in deep shit on the edge. And you know, the question to me is not is he going to have a good year? Because I think he's going to have a good year, but he probably needs to have a great year for them to go where they want to go. And that to me is the bar he's got to cross. And I'm not talking about numbers and 12 sacks versus 14 sacks versus 10 sacks. I can't impart enough how I don't give a shit about that. can he play like Brandon Graham in his prime, getting 8 sacks? That'd be fine. Because you're also going to get significant pass rush inside with Jalen Carter. And again, not number of sacks, just impact. So, you know, he's one of the most important players on this team going into next season, Nolan Smith.
No doubt about it, man. And I think the other thing is too, the other edge rushers are going to be relying on Nolan to have that veteran presence, even as just a third-year player. This is the reality, John. We got a really young defense, man. Really young defense, where Nolan is in a leadership role that Brandon Graham is in what, year 14 or 15, whatever Brandon Graham is in. That's what Nolan's taking on in year 3.
Well, I don't know if he has to take it all on, but they do look at him as sort of an energy guy, similar to BG. But again, when I think about likely team captains, probably on defense, probably Reed, Kobe, Jordan, those guys, potential captains. Nolan's still very young, but they do like his sort of ability to set the temperature with his energy, and that part's going to be important.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Johnny Mac. We'll see what ends up happening with everything this year. Nolan Smith, though, coming in at number 14 on the top 25 player list from the Johnny Mac and Ed Kratz here on Sports Illustrated. I maybe thought Nolan was going to be a little higher. I'm curious now to see who comes in at 13, 12,
well, 13 is just out. Ed just put it out.
Uh-oh. Should we save it for tomorrow, or should we go to it? We got Mike Gill coming up.
Up to you, but
let's go to it. Let's go to it because we got 4th of July Friday. We let's rip it. Who do we got? Number 13, Johnny Mac. Who do we got?
Dallas Goedert.
Ooh,
Dallas Goedert.
Offensive side. It's been a little bit.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it more tomorrow. But yeah, I mean,
this is our first offensive player, John, since Jahan Dotson.
When you get to where we are, everybody's good. That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
And the top 10 is insane with the Eagles, but yeah, I mean, for those who haven't noticed, Dallas is a pretty good player. I know there's some concerns over the injuries and all that, but I think when you think about it logically, if you're comparing why isn't Nolan higher, well, the guy right in front of him has been doing it for a lot longer. And playing at a high level for a lot longer. So it's not much as an insult on Nolan Smith as just a crap load of good players on this team. And there'll be other people that one is, I think there's only one where I generally, we're not far apart generally on most players. But one guy was way too low, in my opinion, on the list, and that'll be coming up in the coming days. But other than that, I think everybody's right where they should belong. I might have them a little bit higher.
Yeah, right.
A little bit
small
lower.
Fluctuations.
Yeah, but one guy I think should be higher. And we'll talk about him in a couple of days.
Yeah, Dallas Goedert. There it goes at number 13. So you got Nolan Smith at 14. We talked about him based on the rumor now that's floating around. And you got Dallas Goedert at 13. So there you go. We're getting closer, almost halfway through the top 25 list from Johnny Mac and Ed Kratz. Good stuff there, everybody. I want to thank and appreciate all of you guys for being here this morning. We got a great crowd in here. A quick reminder to all of our great listeners, there will only be one more show after today this week. Football Friday, we will be off. It's July 4th, so hope everybody has a great July 4th and enjoys their time, whether they're grilling out, spending it with family, spending it alone, whatever you got going on. I hope you guys have a great July 4th. We will not have a live show on Football Friday, but I will post up some clips that I have in the queue from the shows that we've had this week. So you can look out for those, but no live shows on Football Friday. And now we got Mike Gill joining us here on Birds 365. I see him in the green room. Let's go to him right now. Mike Gill joining us here. You can follow him everywhere at Mike Gill Show. You can subscribe to his YouTube